Hello everybody. Welcome to Article 8. Today we are going to talk about waste management and what it means actually. Or थोड़ी ही देर में I'll be introducing you to our guest, but I'm just going to wait for all of you to join us. And if you're here watching us, I can see some of you are already here. Then please comment ताकि हम देख पाएं कि आप यहाँ पर हैं. So let's do this. I can see some of you already here. It's wonderful. Okay, so today's topic, like I said, is waste management. और जब हम waste की बात करते हैं, हम हमेशा सोचते हैं कि actually what categorizes in terms of being waste. So the simplest definition of waste that we can talk about is something that is discarded, expelled, or is the excess matter. So waste is more than what we want to get rid of. It's actually minimizing waste in the interest of efficiency, regarded as evidence of an effective economy, industrial moral, the psychic. The constant consumption is framed as an expression of personal freedom and choice. But the other side of it is the freedom to waste, to discard things that are perfectly useful. Or I think in today's day and time, when there is excess of consumer products out there, the excess of consumption that we do, which is why there is a huge amount of waste that we see out there, whether it's in our homes, in the landfills, or anywhere else. So we spend a fair amount of our time each day managing waste, which starts with basic hygiene of washing ourselves, going to the toilet, taking out the garbage, sorting out the packaging from the latest purchase into recyclable or non-recyclable, taking the compost down to the garden, emptying the trash in our email, picking out clothes for the charity bin. There's lots of different waste here, biological, material, informational, and lots of different techniques and bodily practices involved in eliminating it. There's also a whole swarm of thoughts and feelings about why these practices matter and what their effects are. Waste obviously has a vital role to play in the care of the self. And here is an interesting philosophy that I came across, which is again a Japanese philosophy, where they say that if something is broken or something you think could be discarded, can be actually mended and reused. And of course, when we talk about recyclable materials, there are so many things that we discard in our bins, in our homes, and whether it is in your offices as well, you end up discarding them, whereas it can be recycled. And today, our guest is somebody who has taken up this very topic of waste management and how it can create a huge impact on how we look at things, how we use things, and how we recycle them. Now, before moving forward, I'd just like to point out few quick facts to you that is staggering numbers that I would like to say that in India itself, we generate 5.29 crore metric tons of waste every year, for which 46% is being treated. And Maharashtra itself, our own state, generates 82.38 lakh metric tons of waste per annum. Now, if you go to see, that turns out to be 22,570 metric tons waste a day, of which only 44% is being treated. In fact, in our previous episode, we also saw, when we spoke about plastic in particular, that out of the entire waste that our country generates, a mere 9% of it is being recycled. So there is a lot to talk about. And I have Rahul, who is the co-founder of RaddiConnect, with me, who will talk to us about a different perspective on waste management, humanizing the whole process of it. So let's talk to Rahul. I hope all of you are ready. Please comment in the comment section. Very happy to have Rahul here with us. Warm welcome, Rahul.
Hi, Khyati. Thank you for having me on the show and also for setting the context very well. I think the numbers of waste by itself speak a lot. And maybe to just add some perspective, I think to give you mentioned about 5.5 lakh crore metric tons of waste is what is generated in India every day. Just to give you some perspective, if you can imagine a full-scale Asian elephant, 5-ton elephant, and imagine now 25,000 of such elephants.
Oh
That's
my
the amount of waste that we are generating every single day. So yes, it's a lot of waste that we're generating, and we need to certainly figure out what is to be done with it. So yes, thank
God.
you for having me on the show.
No, thank you so much, Rahul. I think the perspective that you just gave us made us visualize it also in a way that the mountain amount of waste that we as a country and we as a human species are creating. So thank you for that. But Rahul, just to give another perspective, because when we spoke, you said about humanizing waste management, which was a beautiful perspective to bring in to this conversation. So if you can talk a little more on that, that what is the human element, the human effort required in waste management?
Absolutely. So waste for us is an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. We
Yeah,
pretty much just generate it on a day-to-day basis, and we keep it outside of the doors of our houses, and
yeah,
somehow magically it just disappears from our life,
yeah,
and we don't know exactly what happens with it. But
yeah,
once we do discard that waste outside our house, there are multiple people, there are multiple stakeholders from the formal and informal sector that have to actually go through your waste or actually have to touch your waste. And
yeah,
I don't think anybody notices that. So very recently we were having this campaign called the Invisible Warriors, and who we call the Invisible Warriors are the ones that are actually managing your waste and deal with your waste, deal with you on a day-to-day basis. But you
yeah,
probably don't know their faces, you probably don't know their names, you don't even know what they do after and before they come and pick up your waste. So
yeah,
the humanized point of waste is such that when you discard your waste, starting with the sweeper that comes to your building, the person that's actually the first point of contact who's touching your waste,
yeah.
is the first person that comes into contact. Then there are a bunch of other people. So your municipality vendors who come and collect it. There are waste pickers who scavenge through your garbage to take what is not waste. So I think the Japanese psychology that you mentioned earlier, with regards to whatever is broken can be mended. I think it's
Right,
just a perspective on the way that we look at it.
right,
If you consider it as waste, you're going to simply dispose it off. But if you
right.
consider it as resource, I think that's the space that we're going to be looking at. Where people below the chain, below us, are
Yeah,
scavenging through our scrap on our waste. Essentially, because it's not waste, it actually can be used for better purpose, and they are the people that are actually harvesting these materials out of this, uh, risking their lives and putting their lives at stake to keep our environment clean and keep our lives safe and happy at that point of time, and
absolutely.
ensuring that they actually channelize this for recycling rather than do they actually cleaning up our mess in some way or the other, if I would put it that way. So
Right.
yeah.
In fact, this COVID-19 pandemic has actually brought them to the forefront as well. When we've started talking about the sanitization workers, the frontline warriors who are actually keeping the environment clean while we are all still locked up. The garbage is still getting out every day from our houses. So, what is happening to all of it? So, very rightly put, Rahul. I wanted to ask you actually that what are these health impacts that these warriors also go through, if we can let people know about it, make a little more awareness about the same.
So right, I think Hari rightly pointed out. I think with the COVID-19 pandemic that has come up, I think hygiene has become a more important thing for most people, and
Yeah,
it has started with washing your hands and keeping yourself and your surroundings clean.
yeah,
But I think we need to take that one step forward. With regards to if you are not, so even though the city stood still or the country stood still for about almost 3 months, but we were
yeah,
still generating waste. It That did not stop, and your waste worker had to still go out there and risk his life, his or
yeah,
her life, and
yeah,
probably come to your door or come to your building and have it collected to keep
yeah,
you safe. How we saw when I went back to our facility and spoke to the people that were working with us.
mm,
They thought that it was actually on to them to make sure that if they don't do their work, uh, you and me will be unsafe, because if waste is not picked up, there will be another tons of other diseases that are anyways going to be spread. So
right,
this COVID-19 actually in a way has been good for us, because we feel that people are now going to start taking care of their own hygiene,
and also the hygiene and the safety of their waste workers, the sanitation workers that are working with them, because in a way we are protecting them that they were protecting us. No, if
Right.
you put it if you put it that way,
Yeah.
where if you don't sort your waste, if you don't give put it in the right way, if your waste worker is infected by it in any kind of way,
Yeah.
it is the chances of you getting infected are also quite high. So and this is not just a COVID related thing where you need to make sure that your waste is being disposed rightly, but
Right.
in a genuine day to day basis, I think most people forget that your biohazard waste that comes out of your house, so right from your sanitary pads, diapers, medicines, syringes, that are extremely dangerous for anybody to touch by hand. And
Right.
if you realize that most of our waste workers are still waste is still being touched by some human contact. There's always human contact with waste.
Right.
So it has always been important, and also now with a lot of masks and
As
gloves
gloves on. Yeah.
that are being used and are now coming into the waste stream, it has become even more important for us to make sure that we're disposing it off correctly, so
Right.
that we don't infect the people that are there down the line who are working with it, and also keep ourselves safe in that matter of fact. So yeah, I think it's a very important point to make sure that you're disposing it off correctly right now.
Right. Yeah. So Rahul, if to just give us a number that how big is the workforce in the waste management industry? Like how many humans or how many people are employed every year? What is the number? If you can just give us a perspective on that.
So that is very difficult to come with an exact number.
Yeah.
The reason being that largely the waste management sector is informal.
Right.
It involves your kabadi wala and raddi walas on the street to waste pickers that are scavenging through your waste, or your sweeper in your building, who for which we don't have actually data.
Right.
And that's one of the also challenges with the waste management sector itself.
Right.
Either the data is skewed highly, so we're not very sure if it's working well,
Yeah.
or we just don't have the data for that matter of fact. But
Right.
it is estimated that once you do take out the waste from your house, it will
Hmm.
at least 4 to 6 human beings are going to touch your waste before it reaches either a recycling factory or it reaches a
Right.
dumping ground.
Yeah.
And it is estimated that about 1 to 2 crore population are lying within the space which are working only in the informal sector of waste management. So
Yeah.
it's a large number of population that is working in it, and I think rather than looking at the number of people, I think if you just look at the immediate next people in our chain, so making sure that
Yeah.
your sweeper is safe, your waste, your PMC guy is safe. I think if you just look at it from that perspective, I think that's one step at a time.
Absolutely. And do you think if you can just give us a little info on are the governments trying to make this a little more organized sector? Like you said, that we don't have any formal. Not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, is my
Okay.
video not showing? Sorry,
No,
yeah.
yours frozen. Yeah. Now it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was saying, like you said, that it's a very informal and unorganized sector even now. So are there any
Correct.
policies being made to make it like a more organized sector where these are, employed by an authority, and again, they are, safety is also taken care of.
So yes, the government with the Swachh Bharat movement and a lot of the policies that had changed in 2016, the
Hmm.
solid waste management as well as plastic waste management policies that were changed in 2016, has laid down a very important role that the informal sector has been playing. They've realized that the informal sector has been a blessing in disguise for us in this situation, because without them, I think our situation would be a lot worse, and
Hmm.
a lot less waste would be being managed, I would say, in
Hmm.
a way. So the government has laid down a lot of policies where they are willing to issue ID cards to the informal sector, so that they can get access to the basic schemes that are available for the below poverty line people.
Yeah.
But the challenge that comes is with the access to with these people getting access to it. So now most of these people that are working in the space of waste are largely illiterate and they're not educated. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
if they even are aware aware about this. So
Right.
organizations like us and also a lot of other not-for-profits that have been working in this space have been working towards formalizing these people and also giving them the basic amenities of simple things like bank accounts, insurances, medical care,
Yeah.
which are a part of any other job if you were doing. You would
Absolutely.
definitely get your basics in place. So the government has put down mandations, has put down legal points, but I think we need more participation from the formal sector, from the not-for-profits, as well as for consumers. I think if everybody just takes up the responsibility of getting that one person in your society to be a part of it, I think we would be able to cover a large portion and formalize a larger portion of the informal sector.
Right, right. In fact, you rightly said that if every consumer, every household, and every society takes care of it, will make a huge, huge difference. Is there anything that you see already as a practice that is happening when it comes to, household waste that is being managed, or the society as a whole is being doing some efforts on these things? Apart from what you and your
Uh,
organization and other organizations like yours
sure.
work towards.
Sure. So we have certainly seen people, the societies and communities that have taken up zero waste lifestyles
Hmm.
as a choice. Where they have realized that waste is not waste till we waste it. It's essentially
Yeah,
something that
like
we
you just said,
can actually
one of
reuse.
our viewers also just
Yeah.
mentioned that. Yeah,
Correct. So waste is not waste until we waste it. So it's essentially something that we can reuse. And these people that are helping us manage is our people essentially. Some people that are actually helping us towards this point as well. Because I don't
yeah,
think anybody else would put their hands into the waste. So
right.
people that have taken it up as a zero waste lifestyle have at least given their workers the basic safety gear, have made sure that they are formalizing them, giving them the basic minimum wages that are required. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, there are small communities, but I think the action has not been taken at large. So there's a lot more scope where people can participate and do this.
right. So, in fact, now because some questions have also started coming in, Rahul, I want to move to our
Sure,
generational questions, which we've received in advance from different age groups. And I'm sure
sure.
that's going to be a little interesting for every person who watches this video now or later to understand the topic of waste management. Um, so, quickly, just I want to start with the first question, which is by a 6-year-old, and I'm sure parents talk to the kids, and somewhere or the other these conversations must have been heard by kids as well. So his question is very simple. It says, what is dry and what is wet waste? What is the difference? If you can just give
I
it in
think that's
like
a very, very important. I think
yeah,
that's a very important question because I don't think even adults know the difference. So I very appreciate this question from a 6-year-old that he's already thinking on these lines.
yeah,
But so for me to explain it to a 6-year-old, I think I'd like to change the terminology a little bit. I'd
mm,
rather than calling it dry waste and wet waste, which confuses a lot of people, which
yeah,
essentially creates a lot of confusion in their head. I would rather call it natural and man-made waste. So if
okay,
I had to categorize it as natural waste or something that comes from the earth, so essentially your food waste, your garden waste, anything that grows out of the earth is natural, and that is considered as wet waste. So maybe your leftover foods,
mm,
maybe your vegetable cuttings, maybe your green waste from your garden. That is all considered as wet waste. And when you look at dry waste, it's the other side. Whatever is man-made. So paper, plastic, glass, metal, e-waste, electronics, for that matter of fact, which humans have created and have put into the waste stream, is
yeah,
all considered dry waste, which essentially should go into your dry waste bin. So whatever is earth and man, whatever is comes naturally and can be composted goes into wet waste, and
mm,
whatever is man-made, it goes into your dry waste. A
mm,
simple, so most people, what we have seen, makes mistakes in, if there is a milk packet, a
yeah,
plastic milk packet, which is made out of plastic, but there will be some wet component of milk or some water left over in it, and
yeah,
because that is wet, most people would consider that this is wet.
Yes.
Whereas that's a very simple mistake to make, which is where it is not wet waste, it's actually dry waste. You got to just make sure it's rinsed and put into your dry waste bin. Same thing
Right.
with wet waste. What we see mistakes that are happening are things like eggshells,
Hmm.
bones. We see dried leaves. So a lot of garden waste has a lot of dried leaves. If you're living in Bombay,
Yeah.
90% of the year you have a lot of dried leaves that is collected, which people
Yes.
consider as being dry waste, but actually it is wet waste. And
Right.
maybe if I had to add, there's one more component of waste that needs to be added into that, which is essentially your reject or your actual waste, which is your biohazard reject waste. So so we are promoting a three-way segregation, and especially during the times of this pandemic, it has been more important than ever. So you segregate your wet, which you can compost, you
Yeah.
segregate your dry, which you can recycle, and then the third component, which is your biohazard reject waste, which you should make sure that you segregate separately
So,
because that can
Rahul,
infect a lot
I'm
of people
losing
down the line.
I'm losing your voice here.
Hello?
Could you tell us about the
Yeah.
third component again? Just if you can
So
reiterate.
the Yes, sure. So the third component is your biohazard reject waste. So essentially anything that touches your body and then you dispose it off is considered as biohazard reject waste, which would go into your
Okay.
red bin particularly. So which would include
Okay.
things like at this stage masks and gloves, and like I mentioned, sanitary pads, diapers, razors, blades that you would use in your hygiene, in your own hygiene itself. Anything that basically touches your body and then you're disposing it off is most likely to be considered as reject waste or biohazard waste. So apart
Wow.
from your dry and wet waste, this is a very important component that you need to segregate to keep everybody safe during the transportation of this waste. So yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. Moving on to our next question. There is a 13-year-old who's asking that, I'm sure all of us have heard, anybody who is watching us also heard this, that always crush your bottles after use. So the question is, why should plastic bottles be crushed after use?
Sure, I think that's also a very good question. So I think there are two reasons to why plastic bottles need to be crushed. One is so that there can't be any counterfeit and reuse of those bottles, which is, if you crush them, then it's very difficult for somebody to counterfeit them and sell them again. And the other, which is the most important aspect, is that when you are transporting plastic bottles for recycling, uh,
Yeah.
if you essentially just without crushing the bottle, if you transport it, you're essentially just transporting air. If you realize it's high density that you're just basically the plastic component is very little. So if you take a full truck and
Right.
if you put non-crushed bottles of plastic in it,
Yeah.
you'd end up, say, suppose just collecting about 500 or 600 kgs of that plastic. But whereas if you crush that, you'll be able to do at least 3 to 4 times of that amount. So it not only helps you store more plastic at your place, so you
Mm.
can actually store more for recycling, so that it becomes sustainable for collection. It
Yeah.
also helps the recyclers and the informal sector down the line to actually make sure they're doing this in a more environmentally sustainable manner rather than just burning fossil fuels for transporting air more than plastic. So those are
Yeah.
the two probably reasons that you can look at for crushing the plastic bottles.
Brilliant. Our next question is from a 27-year-old, which is saying that how much as an individual we can recycle. Like if you have like some statistics to give us. Okay, what is I was reading through this and it said that in a lifespan of one person we generate like about 4 million tons of waste. I'm not sure how true that is, but I just read that somewhere.
Uh, I am not sure if it's 4 million tons, but I think in a day-to-day life, you can recycle a lot of your waste when it comes down to that.
Yeah.
So by simple steps of just starting to sort your waste, you will realize that how many things are recyclable within that. So your wet waste, if you want to manage your wet waste, there are a lot of home composting machines. Composting is very simple. It just needs to be done diligently. You don't need to look at it
Yeah.
every day. So that's one way to manage your wet waste. You can check up a lot of these small composters at online, and you can probably find one of them. With regards
Hmm.
to your dry waste, right from your newspapers, magazines, cardboard boxes,
Yeah.
in printing paper, office stationery, printouts can be recycled. With plastics, you can have right from your shampoo bottles, your PET bottles, oil containers. Most of them can be recycled again. So glass bottles as well, metals as well. So like if you choose to just make sure that you sort this out and keep it out separately, you can definitely choose to recycle them. There are a lot of either so there are two ways. So what most people get stuck with is that if I do sort it, where do I give it? That's a big challenge for most people. That even though I am doing it and sorting it, the municipality sends one truck.
In fact,
Why should
yes,
I do
that's
it?
a very big question, Rahul.
Correct.
For most people,
Yes,
that we do sort it at home, but when it goes
correct.
out from our houses, it's still put into the same dump yard, like in the same truck or in the same bin that they have that they use. So how is that management going to happen? Like, how can we differentiate, or the workers can differentiate different waste? Yeah,
So, I mean, it starts with you again. It starts with you. So, I mean, even though we mix our waste and give it to them, there are still a bunch of people that scavenge through it and take out the dry recyclables. So, if we sort it out, it becomes easier for them to recover it, and they can channelize. They've anyways been channelizing this for recycling. So
right.
that's one way.
Yeah,
Also, I mean, you can also talk to your local municipality. The municipality, if you are sorting your waste, is supposed to send you a separate vehicle for pickup of your dry waste, which is what we do in one of the neighborhoods in Mumbai. So there are the municipal. If you contact them, if you're sorting your waste, they should send you a separate vehicle. Then the dry waste needs to go to a separate facility where they sort it and then ensure that it gets recycled. So if you as a
understood.
community can get your local body to actually start this process, I think that's one step that they can take. Otherwise, go give it to your local Raddiwala. He'll ensure it goes, even though it's informal. But I still trust them to be able to make sure that it's going down the recycling channel,
Recycling channel. Yes.
and maybe there's a lot more improvement that is required over there. I wouldn't say that it is perfect, but it is much better than dumping it into a landfill. At least at this point of time, I would say. So
Absolutely.
give it to a local Raddiwala, give it to your sweeper. They will know where to put that thing as well. Or you can reach out to organizations like us who have drop-off points or collection centers where you can recycle your waste through us or through other NGOs and other organizations across the country.
Right. Absolutely. So, quickly moving on to our next question, Rahul, is how useful is the incineration technique in India? This is a question by a 35-year-old.
So incineration, what we believe is that incineration should be the last thing that you should do with your waste. So if you can, whatever can be composted, compost or converted into biogas, whatever can be recycled should be recycled.
Yeah.
And then the last component of what cannot be, which is your reject, which is what I was mentioning, it goes into your
Yeah.
reject bin. Things that you should not put into your groundwater or put into your landfills,
Yeah.
essentially should be incinerated. So incineration, there's a lot of mixed talk that happens, and a lot of people have mixed opinions about it. But I
Yes.
feel that if still we are only incinerating things that we cannot recycle or compost, it is a technology that is worth looking into, and
Yeah.
it should be used. But it should not be used as a plan for burning everything that we get. Then it's not the most sensible thing to use as just to incinerate everything, because there's so much more resource value in the material rather than just burning it. And uh, and incinerating it also has its own due effects on the environment in terms of the
Yeah.
emissions that it releases, the fly
Right.
ash that is left after it, as well. So yeah, incineration is required at certain stages, but it should be minimized to the waste that cannot be recycled or composted or done anything else with.
Right. Right. So then, quick next question is, what are the first few steps to initiate a waste management program in my apartment complex? Now, this is by a 40-year-old who wants to know about it.
Okay, great. So I think this is a very important step. I think the young individuals and even people that are living up that can take up the responsibility of getting that community
Yeah.
to start segregating their waste and managing it is a great initiative that you can do. We have
Yeah.
some open source data that we can share as well. Probably later on the comment section, I can add few step by step process of doing it with some collaterals that we can give out. But essentially, what you need to do is that first thing is to get everybody on the same page, is to start sorting your waste into not two but three categories, which is the most important thing.
Yes.
So you hold up, there's enough online resources to know what is dry, wet, and reject. So hold a session with your society to make sure that they know what is your dry, wet, and reject waste, and also ensure that the house helps of the houses. So because
Yeah.
we realize that a lot of the houses in Mumbai or other metro cities, the waste is being managed by the house help and not by the user itself. So
Right.
train them as well as a part of this setup. Tell
Yes.
them why we're doing it and not what we are doing instead. So why are we actually doing this? So
Right.
it becomes easier for them to attach some kind of aspect to it as to why exactly we're doing it and how it's
Yeah.
going to help everybody around us. So once people start sorting their waste, you have to make sure that your sweeper, the second person in line, has the right infrastructure to collect it. If your sweeper today has only two bins or has only one bin, even though you're sorting it, you're going to still have him or her put it in one bin. So they should
Right.
have, what we suggest is two bin, one bag. So one for dry, one for wet, and a simple gunny bag that they can carry, which becomes easier for them to carry for their reject waste.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's the simplest step that they can do to start up the
Yeah.
recycling. So start with doing an awareness session with your society, train your
Yeah.
sweeper, and then follow it up by making sure that you see that everybody is following it. And then the dry can be sent for recycling, and the wet, if you have space in your society, you can compost it, or then channelize that for sending to a landfill. That's the worst case scenario.
Brilliant. So I think what I understand is that educating and getting people aware about how to segregate waste and why they are doing it, especially, should be of utmost importance, whether it is in households or in apartments. Absolutely. Um,
Correct.
Quickly moving on, there's a 45-year-old who wants to know that how can we manage paper and plastic waste more efficiently? So scattered paper, I think offices and even households where
Correct.
people have, working individuals. So there's a lot of scattered paper waste. So how can that be managed more efficiently?
So again, I think the first step just boils down to sorting it, segregating it. It's
Yeah.
Waste management or managing a waste is no rocket science. It's very, very, very simple.
Yeah.
It's kids that can do it in school. We've set it up in schools, and kids in schools are doing it greatly. And they're doing a great job at it. So
Yeah.
it just starts with making sure that you do not contaminate your recyclable waste with other
Yeah.
waste. So if you have a corporate office setting,
Hmm.
what we do is that so right next to your printer that you'll have in your office, where most people
Yeah.
are printing aimlessly, and a lot of waste paper that does come out from there.
Yeah.
Just keep a small recycle bin specifically for paper. So
Right.
people, if there is anything else, they got to take it out, keep it in that bin. Even the
Yeah.
paper that we have at our desk, what we
Hmm.
end up doing is that I'm sitting on my desk, I have something that I scribbled on, I crumpled it, put it in the bin below my desk. Then in the
Hmm.
afternoon, I was eating lunch, I had some save puri or whatever it is, took out the paper, we took out the plate of that, put that thing again
Yeah.
in the bin below my desk. And that
Yeah.
waste essentially got contaminated. Now, if they just took that 30 seconds at the end of their day, instead of
Yeah.
throwing it in the bin below, just
Hmm.
make sure that they collected this and put it in the community recycling bin, which
Yeah.
people set up. I think if they just do that, the waste can be very easily recycled. Paper can be very easily recycled, for that matter of fact. So it just
Right.
starts with sorting. If you sort your waste first, and I think that becomes the first step to doing anything. So
Absolutely.
say,
Just
keep it
being
separately, and you'll have
mindful.
somebody that will
Right.
recycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being mindful of where you're putting out what. Like, I think that starts with there. Just changing your
Correct.
mind about things. Correct. Moving on, this is the next question, which says, what changes have you seen or any upgradation in technology that you've seen within the last few years for proper waste management? A 50-year-old wants to know this.
Sure. So I think in the waste management space, there is more movement that has happened the last few years as
Hmm.
compared to the decade put together, and
Yeah.
which is great because I think a lot of consumers have realized that plastic is a problem, managing
Yes.
your waste is a problem, and which has led to a lot of innovation in this space,
Hmm.
especially on the processing side of the waste.
Right.
Where there are so many new technologies that have come up, to actually
Hmm.
manage this waste better. So if you
Yeah.
were plastic is being used in making roads, plastic is being. I saw Meera Patrikar ma'am was there on your earlier show, and
Yeah.
they converted. They use a technology called pyrolysis and convert this plastic back into oil. So that's
Yeah.
another space that we're looking at. We make sheets out of this plastic waste, which is essentially a substitute to plywood. So that is happening as well. Um, so yeah, I would say there's a lot of
We
technologies that
lost
have come
you,
up to
Rahul, there.
process.
We
Sorry,
lost
can you
you.
hear me?
Yes, now we can. We
Okay,
lost
yeah,
you
I'm
in
sorry.
between. Where you said that
Yeah,
your
so I was saying that
sheets out of plastic.
that's correct. So we make other technologies. We are making sheets out of this plastic, which can be used as a substitute to plywood. So essentially, you can make furniture out of it. You can make tables, chairs, absolutely, or anything that you can make with plywood. You can make with this. It's fireproof. It is waterproof. So those kinds of things are available. So yeah, there's a lot of technology that is being moving. It's still new. Uh, Chemical recycling is something that is coming up
Hmm.
as compared to physical recycling that has been happening for decades. So that's
Yeah.
something that is coming up in a lab setup right now. There's a
Yeah.
lot more things that are happening. So if you look around, you'll find a lot more. And every day, in fact, we're hearing of new technologies. The last thing I heard that there are some kind of uh, enzymes that they have found which can actually help plastics degrade. Uh, so
That is
so there's a lot that
absolutely.
is happening in that space. So yeah, I mean, you have to just
Yeah.
keep a lookout.
Yeah, that's great. That's news to us also. So 65-year-old wants to know, how do I manage my garden waste better? So I'm
Sure.
sure a lot
So
of people are also now getting into gardening as well. So that would be a
absolutely.
good, yeah,
So
information for them.
garden waste is in fact, garden waste is you can manage it and you convert it into compost and use it back into your gardens. That's the best possible thing that you can do. Is you get free compost
Yeah,
for your garden. So
right.
it has certain technicalities. So you need to basically ensure. So if you have large pieces of wood, if you have large pieces of so if you have palm tree leaves, which are generated a lot in Mumbai. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Hi, Kathy, are you here? Okay, we should just wait.
Hi, Rahul, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I lost you in the middle.
Yes. Yeah, I think
Yes.
there was a connection issue in between. Yes. So
Okay.
yeah, you were telling
Yeah.
us about garden composting. Yeah.
So garden waste is something that they can manage and make into compost. There's a little bit technicality in how the garden waste can be composted.
Hmm.
So if you have large pieces of wood or large pieces of leaves, things like your large palm tree leaves that dry up and fall. The first step is that you would probably need to invest into a shredder,
Hmm.
so that you can shred this garden waste into smaller pieces. So that's easy to manage. It's easy to compost.
Yeah.
So you shred all your garden waste, which is the first step that you'll have to probably do. And then composting can be done in multiple ways. So there are machines, right from manual tumbler machines to fully automated machines, or it
Yeah.
can be done even as simple a way as to just dig a hole into the ground. So if you go to any village across the country of India, you will find people doing this in their backyards, right
Yeah.
from biogas to composting. So all you got to do is that you dig a small pit into your garden or into your garden area.
Yeah.
Start putting in your leaves or whatever garden waste that you're getting in it.
Hmm.
You also need to add a little bit of so you have to match your greens and browns. So when I say greens and browns, so your greens are essentially your garden waste and your browns are your food waste. So you can actually use this garden waste. Managing your garden waste, you can also manage your home waste along with it. So you
Right.
mix your garden waste, you mix your home wet waste,
Hmm.
put it in this pit,
Hmm.
let it settle for keep putting in your waste every day. So about 15 to 20 days, if the pit fills up, you just cover it up with dried leaves over that and let it settle for another 15 days. In about 30 to 45 days, you should have your compost ready.
Wow.
So it's a great way to actually start your first step towards moving zero waste. So you can actually, you don't
Absolutely.
need anybody to come and collect your waste at all. At least your wet waste component. You manage your wet
Yeah.
waste at your house as well as your garden. So if you're a society that's looking to do this, it's a
Yeah.
great way that we have seen that if you have a garden area, you can compost your waste. You can use that compost to grow more plants, or even take it back home to put up plants in your own houses. So
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
one way you can manage your garden waste.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful tip, Rahul. Thank you so much for that. And now my generational questions are over, and now we'd really love to know what RaddiConnect as an organization does, and when did you think of starting this organization?
Sure. So, RaddiConnect was launched in August 2015. So it's about we'll be completing 5 years this month,
Yeah.
and it's been a long journey for us over the last 5 years, where we have kept learning from the industry and evolving our business and working towards what the customers need essentially. So the story started. I mean, our journey started in 2015 when we had. The idea came up. I think if you want to know about that, is we did this campaign with the Devna dumping ground. So if you remember this
Yes.
large fire that happened in the early 2016 of Jan,
Yes.
where there was an iconic image that was shared by NASA from space of the Devna
Yeah.
dumping ground burning. So
Yeah.
we went out there to find out after the fire what exactly happened, and
Hmm.
we found out a couple of very astonishing facts when we went down to that neighborhood. One was that these fires actually happen on a day-to-day basis, and it was just this day that the fire firstly escalated, and the Devna dumping ground is located in such a way that it's the dumping ground, and then they have the creek on one side, and then the city on the other side. So normally, when the wind is blowing towards the creek, the smoke gets dispersed in the creek, and you never really find out about it. Even though the
Yeah.
locals over there will definitely feel the consequences. But this
Absolutely.
particular day, the wind was blowing towards South Bombay. So the smoke coming towards the city, everybody started waking up and realizing that this is a big challenge. So that
Right.
was one issue, that this fire is actually happening every day. We're just not aware about it, but it's still happening every single day over there. The second
Right.
most astonishing thing that we found out was the fact that the average life expectancy of people living around the dumping ground, these are not people that work in the dumping ground. They just live in the neighborhood. There's a slum called Shivaji Nagar
Right.
and we found out that the average life expectancy is just 39 years of age, as
Right.
compared to the rest of the city, which is roughly in the 60s, if I'm not
Yeah.
wrong. So
Yeah.
we realized that it is already affecting people. It is already affecting. We think that it's not in my backyard, but this is actually happening in our backyard. And sooner
Yeah.
than later, it's going to affect all of us.
Absolutely.
So which got me and my partner and the team very motivated towards doing something in this space. And
Right.
that's where our journey actually began from. And
Hmm.
so we essentially work on managing dry waste. That's our main aspect.
Right.
Our idea is to divert as much waste from landfills like Deonar and other places which we went and saw,
Yeah.
back into the economy so that it can be recycled, reused, or repurposed, or put to better use instead of being dumped. So we work on this
Right.
with a multi-stakeholder approach where we work with governments, we work with consumers like you and us, and
Hmm.
also organizations. For consumers, we have a model where we have an Uber platform for Raddiwalas. So we have actually standardized and formalized the informal setting. So you as
Wow.
a consumer, if you want to recycle your clean recyclables, your paper, plastic, metal, glass, e-waste,
Hmm.
you simply come onto our website, schedule a pickup, and we send a verified Raddiwala to your
Wow.
house who collects your scrap and ensures that we channelize that for recycling. So that's one model where you can simply come and recycle it. You can either choose to donate the proceeds to an NGO of your recyclable waste, or barter them for recycled stationery in return. So it's a
Wow.
win-win in both cases.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you're a corporate office that generates a lot of paper waste, you recycle it with us, and we give you paper stationery like your printing paper, pads,
Hmm.
pens, all made out of recycled paper itself. So that's one where we're working with consumers and corporate offices.
Right.
Uh, and we're also then working with municipalities. So, like you asked the question earlier with regards to if you sort your waste is still being mixed and put into the same garbage
Yeah.
truck.
Right.
So we are currently managing the waste for one ward in Mumbai
Hmm.
and expanding into Hyderabad. So
Right.
in Mumbai, if you are staying in the Borivali and Dahisar area, and if you sort your waste, we
Hmm.
will collect your dry waste separately, ensure it comes to a facility where we have actually empowered the bottom of the pyramid, the waste pickers, giving them
Hmm.
dignified jobs to actually help us manage this waste. We sort this waste into almost 40 different categories
Hmm.
once it comes from your place and channelize
Yeah.
each one of them for recycling. So we have one such segregation facility that's running, and we're setting up a second one and tying up with more municipalities to make sure that this is happening. So that's the second vertical of the business that we work in. And then the final and the third vertical is where we work with your large corporations of your FMCG brands. So
Right.
the largest plastic polluters are your packaging waste
Yeah.
essentially. So we work
Yeah.
with your big FMCG brands to actually help them go plastic neutral.
Yeah.
So if you are a brand that is making any FMCG goods, we calculate your plastic footprint. So in terms of how much plastic you're selling to the environment, and
Hmm.
through our different channels, through our Raddiwala networks, through our artyKAL networks, through our collection centers that we're running, we
Hmm.
collect this plastic waste on your behalf and ensure that you can neutralize your footprint in some way.
Wow.
So those are the three aspects, and then we also work a lot heavily on behavior change, which is a big aspect of our work. So
Yes.
we work on getting communities to start sorting their waste, get schools to start sorting their waste, get corporate offices to start sorting their waste and manage their waste better. Work on formalizing the informal sector, which we believe are the key stakeholders in this
Yeah.
ecosystem, because without them we would be in a lot of situation. And I don't think any recycling would be happening. So yeah, overall managing the
Absolutely.
dry waste part of it, helping consumers as well as other people to manage their waste.
Right. So, so quickly you've summarized the brilliant work that RaddiConnect as an organization does. So, Rahul, just to reconfirm on some of the aspects of your organization that you mentioned. So, you all do have workshops or educational programs for communities, for schools, for organizations that you all conduct, right?
That is correct. Right now, we have moved them all to online and webinars,
Right.
considering the pandemic situation. So,
Yes.
if you are interested, just write to us on our Instagram or Facebook or email us, and we'll be happy to conduct that with your community.
Absolutely wonderful. So now, Rahul, that we've spoken of RaddiConnect, I have some questions that have come in online. So I'll just want to highlight if you want to just take some of those. Um, One is that is it possible a disposable kit should be provided while selling such products as gloves and injections, etc. The ones that you mentioned earlier.
Uh, yes, I think starting with probably sanitary pads. I think sanitary pads and diapers are something that come out on a more regular basis and from every household for that matter of fact. So brands should come out with a packaging which at least can differentiate the waste so that once it goes down in the waste stream, people know that this is your reject waste, and it does not get, nobody needs to touch it by hand specifically.
Right.
So disposal kits should be provided. Probably you should ask your brands to do it. We as consumers ask the brands. I think maybe that would probably help them start take that initiative.
Right, absolutely. And quick, another question was, which we've spoken of, but if you'd like to just touch upon it again, which says easy swaps for youth to cut down on waste. So, I was actually, when we were having this conversation, I was mentioning to you that generally people think that these kind of things, responsible things, are supposed to be boring or, something serious that they may not enjoy. So, some, for
Correct.
youth, especially, if you can give some fun ideas for them to take care of.
I think it's very basic. I think you things that I probably you must have heard 100 times and not implemented, but maybe I'll
Yeah.
reiterate the same things.
Yeah.
And this is not just environmentally friendly, but also pocket friendly in some way. I
Yeah.
think being environmentally conscious is also going to save you some money in just your spending habits. So things
Yeah.
like stop using disposable plastics to start with. Wherever you can, just avoid it. Just make sure you don't use it at all.
Yeah.
Use carry your own bottle instead of buying PET bottles. That's another thing. Uh,
Right.
and now with the pandemic situation, I think plastic bags have returned. Unfortunately, is what I have seen in the markets,
Yes.
and which is quite concerning for us because after having gone to the single-use plastic ban, we're seeing it as a comeback. But I think
Yeah.
it's the safest to actually not just in terms of environment, just for your own safety as well. I think it's the safest to carry your own cloth bag instead of
Yeah.
touching anything else from anybody else. I think if you carry your own cloth bag, it's not only going to safeguard you from this, as well as it's going to keep the environment clean. So I think
Right.
that's one thing that everybody should do. I have three bags in my car. I just make sure that I have three cloth bags, and it's as easy as keeping them in your car or in your bag, in your
Yeah.
backpack. So whenever you are buying
Right.
anything, you can use them.
Right.
So I think that is an easy swap that people can do. If you want to take a step forward, then you can start looking at biodegradable and compostable things like your toothbrushes, straws
Yes.
which can be reused over and over again, metal straws that
Yeah.
are there in the market. Also look at it brings down to the going local kind of a thing where which the whole country has been talking about.
Yes.
Instead of going for large corporate big brands, I think if we just start going back to how India used to initially work, we went to the local vendor
Yeah.
who would not have that much packaging and would have local produce directly from the farm or from local
Yeah.
communities that are making it. So not just with your food, but also your other goods that you're buying. If you can start swapping them for local alternatives, I think that's a step where you would anyway start reducing your footprint. Because even though we don't realize, but packaged goods which we buy
Yeah.
off shelves
Yeah.
have a lot of wastage that happens even before it comes to the shelf itself. So if
Yes.
we try and pick local and start being a little bit more conscious about our choices, I think that would be most ideal. I feel.
Absolutely. Wonderful, Rahul. It was lovely talking to you. Before you leave, I just want to let everybody know that this is the handle where you can connect with RaddiConnect. Of course, they are on Facebook, Instagram, and they have a website as well. Like Rahul mentioned, I'll put the website name also in the comment section so that if you want your dry waste to be recycled and repurposed, then please get in touch with them, schedule a pickup, and there are also online workshops that they're doing if you'd like to get more aware and educated about how to segregate waste, how you can make a difference. Then please do connect with them. RaddiConnect is doing some amazing work here in our city in Mumbai and are expanding as we speak. So thank you so much, Rahul. It was wonderful talking to you. And any last words you want to tell our viewers and everybody?
So yeah, I think one thing if you're looking to reach out to us, you can reach out to us on our Facebook or Instagram or on our website. I will also put a follow up link on the comments for if you want to start a campaign of managing your waste in your society. I'll put a link for downloading all the collaterals that you need to. And apart from that, I think
Yeah.
it's high time we stop just talking about managing our waste and doing something from the environment, but rather start doing things.
Yeah.
We have been great at posting photos, talking about it on social media,
Yes.
and been great at just making sure that this topic is up and about. But I don't think we've done that great a job of actually doing things. So
Yeah.
my request to all your viewers would be to start taking up simple things if it has to. Start by your own house, sorting your waste.
Hmm.
Start by picking your brands and your products consciously by where
Yeah.
you're picking them from. If you want to take a step forward, get your community involved. I think
Right.
there are enough people that are around the country that are doing some great work, and
Yeah.
it does not have to be us. It does not have to be the kind, but there's multiple ways that you can find your way to manage your waste. And a
Right.
lot of
Right.
organizations are doing it. So find a local organization who's doing it. In case you need any help and support from us, we'll be happy to share any collaterals and stuff that we want from our side. And start taking up action rather than just talking about it. So yeah, that's my
Absolutely.
last word. And I think thank you, Kathy, for having me on the show and giving me
Thank
this
you.
opportunity to tell us about our work and as well as how everybody can take small steps. in their own life to manage their waste better.
Absolutely. Here's a small step of getting people a little more aware and educated about waste management industry with RaddiConnect and you, Rahul. So thank you so much once again. I'm just gonna see you in a bit. And till then, to all of you, don't forget, like Rahul mentioned, we've been talking about it since a while. But if you can do something about it, take actions. We will be putting out the website name and other details of RaddiConnect. And like he mentioned, there are other organizations also in different cities working towards the same purpose. So make sure that you take small steps, but do take some action. So thank you very much. We've spent a lot of time on Article 8. I will hope to see you again next time. And till then, do not forget refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Thank you so much. See you again.